Writing about autism with authenticity and respect for the autistic community was a huge challenge and not one I took on lightly. I am by no means an expert on autism, nor do I claim to be one, but I have based my characters on the observations I've made of my own two awesomely autistic kids. Please note, as with all my books, I've used UK spelling, slang, and idioms throughout. Much love, Sarah XX Mallory. New Galathea City. 29 Solar. Month November. New age 21-29. According to the Relevance History Museum, there was color before testing began. But on the morning of my testing day, I know there won't be any color but a murky gray-green the UV shield cloaks the city in. It's early. The watery sun hasn't fully appeared, but I've been awake most of the night. I'm not supposed to be nervous about the day I take my relevance test, but I am. My hands are shaking and I'm sick to my stomach. Were it not for my sister's presence as we dress for the day in matching gray tunics, with our blonde hair swept back, I'd still be under my covers hiding. Constance's eyes narrow, a shade of icy blue, in contrast to my own muddied green. Don't do anything irrelevant today. No matter how nervous you get, you can't hum, and you especially can't rock. I should be used to her bluntness, but her comments still sting. She's embarrassed by me. Embarrassed I still exhibit too many irrelevant behaviors. I try to make my voice stronger than I feel. You told me 3 times yesterday. A flickering of concern knots her brow, but she concedes. I know, but this is important. You can't afford to get a low score. You already have a few marks against your name. She doesn't need to tell me again. I know what's at stake, but before I can say anything, she's changing the subject. I heard an irrelevant man was caught trying to get back inside. I hope they sent him right back out again. She shudders as if even the idea repulses her. I don't say anything even though I want to ask more about the irrelevance. She doesn't like it when I ask questions about things I shouldn't. She falls silent as we pull on our boots and lace them taut. Sitting on the edges of our twin beds, gray government-issued blankets match our white walls. My nerves increase as my eyes stray to the last book I read. Even reading the relevance pretest 3 times hasn't settled the unease in my stomach. I push my hands inside my pockets as we descend the sweeping staircase of our 2-story unit, hoping I can hide my anxiety from my mother and father. From his position beside the air warmer, his tablet in hand, my father nods slowly in my direction. There are dark circles under his eyes as though he hasn't slept. His hair, a dirtier blonde than mine, is cut short as all the judges in Galathea Central's are. Have you read the test instructions? I nod, throat thickening as I take a seat. I have. In the kitchen filled with all the latest gadgets she insisted she needed but never touches. My mother collects a bowl of nutrient blocks from the refrigeratorian unit, all with a glare at our father. She looks out of place in her tailored clothing and flawless makeup. It's rare to even see her. My father nods slowly in my direction. There are dark circles under his eyes as though he hasn't slept. His hair, a dirtier blonde than mine, is cut short as all the judges in Galathea Central's are. Have you read the test instructions? I nod, throat thickening as I take a seat. I have. In the kitchen filled with all the latest gadgets she insisted she needed but never touches. My mother collects a bowl of nutrient blocks from the refrigeratorian unit, all with a glare at our father. She looks out of place in her tailored clothing and flawless makeup. It's rare to even see hair in this room, and she's usually gone to her important assigned job by the time I get up. I can only guess she's here because she accused our house cleaner of stealing rations and is now forced to make her own food. Her blue eyes are as cool as always as she peers down at me. As long as you get a 7 or higher, you'll get into the architectural training program. Inwardly, I wince. I don't bother to tell my mother I don't want to be an architect for the government. Even if it means living in one of the upper relevant districts and getting automatic acceptance into all the best clubs. And even if it's the closest thing to creating art I'll ever get. If it weren't for the government making relevance testing mandatory at age 18, when brain development is supposedly stabilized, I'd be content to squander my days on irrelevant hobbies like sneaking off without Constance's knowledge to stare at the horizon, trying to imagine what or who lives outside the border gate. I force a smile and hide my desire with practiced ease. My mother is a 9, and her family are some of the most relevant people in the city. I gave up trying to explain why I loved the things I do years ago, when her brow would knot, and her mouth would pinch together in disdain. Her score and my father's 10 are why we have a cleaner, a housekeeper, and both went to a private school. And it's why I'm terrified that today, when I undergo my relevance test, that I won't live up to their expectations. My sister and I eat our breakfast in silence just like we always do. My parents don't agree with unnecessary conversation, and my mother doesn't engage with me unless she's criticizing or correcting any behavior she dislikes. I reach for my government issued vitamin while my parents start talking about my relevance test, and it's all I can do to force the large pill down without gagging. My mother's voice is light despite the weight of her words. I heard the Robson boy got a 4. Can you imagine? I don't know if I could get out of the bed in the morning if I knew working in the clothing factory was my futur. At least he wasn't scored irrelevant. I suppress a groan as our mother's face darkens. That reminds me. The housekeeper. I'm not waiting another day. I'm far too busy. I was thinking I'd hire a 5 again, but they are so hard to come by. I could try to find a 3. They are more economy, Cal. But can they even read? Our father huffs out an irritated breath and looks over his tablet. Every citizen inside the new city can read. It's mandatory even in the lower relevance districts. If you'd had a conversation with anyone below a number 7, you would know this. Our mother shrugs, a pensive expression on her face as she sips her tea. Don't be ridiculous. I have nothing in common with lower relevance Barshar and G the same time zone. Oh, that reminds me, my time slide needs a new solar charge. Constance, can you pick up one after Mallory has her test? Constance pushes back from the table. Her chair screeches along the floor. You can pay me. Back the credits with interest. Mallory, let's go get the train. I nod, too anxious to say much to my mother as she waves her hand as though dismissing both of us. My father, however, gets out of his chair. His shoulders stiffen, lips tugging downwards as he walks me to the door. We'll see you for your celebration this evening. I'm not so sure we'll be seal-bratting, but I keep my doubts to myself. In a few hours, I'll have had my brain scan, answered the test questions, and after 18 years of wondering how relevant I am, I'll know what my future will look like. Sure. I mumbled. He frowns, disappointed at my lack of enthusiasm for what should be a joyful day, so I force a smile. I'm sure I'll do well, I say. The corners of his mouth lift. Of course you will. You're my daughter. He spins on his heel and goes back to his tablet, dismissing me just like my mother did from what he likely thinks is unfounded fear. I swallow hard as I take another sip of my supplemented water and swirl it around in my dry mouth. No one in my family in the entire 50 years of testing has ever scored lower than a 7. There is no logical reason why I'd suddenly be the one Tosham our family and lose my high-ranking status, but my logic has never been able to override my imagination. I try to push aside all negative thoughts and infuse confidence into my walk. Behind me, Constance digs around in her pocket for her train pass, leaving me to open the auto door with a wave of my hand. When it closes behind us with a subtle click, and I'm standing outside under the protection of the UV shield in my neighborhood, it's all I can do to breathe, when doubt curls into my middle. The strangest sensation, a nagging itch that won't go away, only grows with each step closer to the train station. I look to take the blood test if she's considering pairing with him. I suppose it is, even if I don't want to hear all the details of prospective pair-ups. With a smile, she's back to breezy as though her thoughts are as changeable as her nail strips. Anyway, you don't need to worry about that. You're relevant even if you do have your head stuck in the clouds. Just do what I said. Don't be strange and don't talk about those stories you write about flying G creatures that don't exist. Okay. I nod, though my annoyance threatens to twist my face into a scowl at her dismissal of my obsession with mythical beasts. You don't need to keep telling me that. I know creatives aren't as relevant. Even if it burns to say it, I do, knowing she needs to hear me concede. She starts to talk about idle things, her new job in hospital administration, which 5 she should hire to clean the offices where she works, filling the Nauvoo energy with constant chat that does little to ease the mood anyway. Even if she didn't want to say it aloud, she's worried for me. Worried I'm a little too strange, a little too curious, a little too interested in items that have been banned for me to be considered a higher relevant. By the time the train comes to a seamless halt, her smile is forced as she gestures towards the hospital where my test will be held. My nerves only increase as we see others from the upper district milling around the hospital, all wearing confident smiles. The electronic board beside the doors lets me know who has been tested. I note 7 from my year, all marked with test complete, status pending beside their name. I lift my hand, wave it in front of the board, and flinch as my name appears in vivid red ink. Mallory Williams, status pending. My sister squeezes my arm. Through the door, turn left. You'll be a few hours. Her eyes lock on mine and her smile falters, but she grips my upper arms tightly, the closest thing to physical contact that is allowed. Don't tell them you like to go to the border wall. My cheeks heat as she pulls away. I manage a weak smile, embarrassed she knows that despite me trying to hide it from her. My heart is thudding too hard as a teenage boy with high-end clothing from the best store in the city smiles at us. Forgot it's your relevance day too. Margaret. Constance only scoffs and turns away. I smother a groan at the boy who'd spent too much school time styling his hair. It's not surprising he doesn't even know my name. Mallory, I mumble. Aiden's grin widens as he swipes his hand so his name appears on the board. Don't look so worried, you're half decent to look at. No one will worry if you're only a 6. His eyes roam my body as if he's assessing me. I recoil at the lewd smile growing on his face. You want to pair up after this? If you get a good score, I mean. Heat rushes to my face as I stammer. And no, I don't. He shrugs as if it's of no consequence and struts away, leaving me wondering if I'll ever not find it horrendously embarrassing when a boy asks me that. My stomach is tied in knots as I enter the hospital and try to project confidence as I approach the front desk. This is my one chance to finally prove to my sister, to my teachers, and to my mother and father that I belong here. I absolutely cannot afford to reveal all the things I've learned to hide. After I swipe my wrist, I barely have time to sit before a tech comes to get me and shows me to a whitewashed room. The sterility matches most of the buildings. Everything is either gray, white, or black, the 3 colors considered most relevant and least likely to offend or incite strong emotion. The MRI machine is ing, like a coffin that I'll be stuck inside. The technician, at a guess is probably an 8, has me sign a form, then tells me to undress. When I'm wearing a flimsy hospital gown, she ushers me into a small windowless room. A huge machine, white, sterile, and intimidating, though I've seen pictures in the pre-test guide, sits in the middle of the floor. I lie down, my stomach twisting in knots when she recites as though bored that I can't move a muscle for 20 minutes while they scan my brain function. She tells me she needs to inject me with dye and that it must be direct into my vein. I try not to flinch as she pulls out a special med dispenser, a long stylus type I've never seen before. I feel a sharp prick in my arm, then it floods my body with ice, and I shudder at the unwelcome coldness rushing through me. My muscles tense as she puts earbuds in my ears and locks a faceplate over my head to keep me immobile. I try to keep my breathing slow and shallow as instructed. Every so often the tech's voice comes in a monotone through the speaker. 2-minute pass. Don't move. My teeth clench and I close my eyes against the hideous noise the machine makes. Like a throbbing beast, the machine's magnets whirl inside with me trapped in its clutches. To distract myself, I try to think of something pleasant, something that passes the time and pulls me out of the creeping fear. But all I can think of is what Constance said about irrelevance and how those who'd gotten that result had disappeared. My nose starts to itch, but I can't move. I start thinking about what might happen if there is a fire or if an irrelevant criminal decides to attack the testing hospital. Would the tech and whoever is behind the door abandon me to die trapped inside a giant coffin? Before I realize what's happening, my anxiety is spiraling into a full-blown panic attack. I can't let them see I'm panicking. I can't let them see that I'm scared. I'm not supposed to let any of those emotions show. My palms start to sweat, my throat closes over, and I squeeze my eyes shut to keep from pressing the button the tech had given me and causing a scene and a possible black mark on my test. I start thinking about what lurks over the wall bordering the city. My mind conjures up mythical creatures. Pegasus, dragons, even griffins and unicorns start to calm me a little. I'm fully immersed in my fantasy world when the tech's voice pulls me out. Get dressed and you can move on to the next part of your test. My breathing doesn't slow until she's removed the faceplate and I can move again. I pull myself up to sitting and find my muscles are shaking from being so still. Without so much as a smile, the tech hands me a lightweight tablet and directs me back to the dressing area where my clothes are waiting for me. Go back to reception. You're ready for stage 2. As she strolls away, her sneak airs squeaking on the pristine marble floor, I sneak a look at the tablet hoping to see something positive, but the pad is locked. I hastily dress again in the tiny cubicle. In the waiting area, posters are pasted everywhere. Gray-black photos of smiling medical personnel in various poses. A surgeon smiles wide, a scalpel in her hand, and the number 9 over her name, speaking of her relevance and success. I scan the rest of the posters, wondering how many are lower than an 8, and find the answer in a poster of a man with sloping eyes and a grin as white and as plastic as all the rest. The poster states he's a nurse and is a successful 7. The waiting room is empty, save for the receptionist, probably a lowly 5, who is currently applying nail strips, a bored expression on her face to match the text. I stare at my own bare fingernails and pick the skin around them. Another irrelevant behavior Constance has told me to stop. The doors to the entrance slide open and a red-haired boy strolls in. He glances at me, but heads straight to the reception desk, covering a yawn as though this isn't the most important day in his life. To calm myself, even though it breaks one of Constance's rules, my eyes stay locked on his brilliant hair. My sister thinks me obsession with band color is a bad thing. I watch him surreptitiously, so I don't draw any unwanted attention. The receptionist barely looks up when he raises his wrist to swipe his arrival. He smirks at her as he slopes over towards me. He pulls out a tablet and starts playing a mental agility game, one of the few still considered relevant, and I wish I'd thought to bring my government-issued tablet to pass the time. Instead, I twist the tablet the tech gave me, spinning it around and around as the screen catches the beams of light from the overhead lighting strips. My heart leaps to my throat as a shadow falls over me. A man around 30, judging by the lines on his face, is wearing a white lab coat, and he's squint-enging at me. Mallory Williams? I nod, feeling my mouth go dry as he reaches for the tablet I'm now holding in a death grip. Come with me. When I pause to swipe my sweaty palms on my trousers, he frowns and gestures to follow him. Red hair beside me doesn't even look from his game as I pass by. I swallow and try not to look as terrified as I feel. Lab coat walks too fast, and I'm struggling to catch up. When he finally stops at the end of a long corridor, he steps inside a dark-ened room and gestures to a seat. I nearly trip as my eyes adjust to the dim after the luminescent light of the hospital. A machine with numerous buttons and wires is sitting beside his messy desk. He fumbles around on his desk and lifts 2 wires with a circle at one end. Electrodes, he says, as if that will take away all my worry. I flinch as he pushes the tabs against my temples. He doesn't smile when he steps back to his machine, just frowns as he flicks a couple buttons. When he's satisfied with whatever it is he's doing at the machine, he leans forward. Right? This will just take a few minutes. He glances at the time slide on his wrist and waits a moment before he reaches over to the switch. The lights flicker slightly, then dim even further. He flicks another switch and a pulsing light begins to stutter almost in time with my irregular heart rate. My heart continues to speed as I watch him. His eyes are locked on the monitor. Every now and then he sends me a glance. His expression doesn't change. He's too involved in his study of my brain to falter from his frown. The flickering lights finish. Then a new set of colored blobs dart around the room, bouncing off the walls. It's a dazzling AR ray, and I feel my body start to relax at the colorful display. What purpose it serves, I can